Welcome to the KidLit podcast. Join Marti Dumas and Elena Paige on their quest to help children's and middle grade authors find the right audience and sell more books.
Welcome again to the KidLit podcast. I'm Elena.
And I'm Marti.
We're both children's book and middle grade authors. Let's start again. That's terrible.
Sure.
Start again.
Start wherever you feel like it, because I can cut it from there.
I normally roll with it, but it's Sunday. Maybe my brain's asleep.
Mine is.
Probably. You shouldn't have told me you're up at 3:20. Made the difference.
I messed up your time.
You did. So are you on live now?
Yeah, but it's okay. I can cut it later. You can
live.
Whenever you you restart, right. I'll start it from there.
Okay. I'll start now. Hello and welcome again to the KidLit podcast. I'm Elena Paige.
And I'm Marti Dumas.
Hello, Marti. How are you?
I'm doing okay today. And yourself?
Good. Excellent. So we're both children's authors trying to do better in the children's book selling world. So we're awesome authors, but we want to sell more books. Is that right, Marti?
That's absolutely right. And you and I and a lot of the people that we know have really invested a lot of time in trying to figure out how to more children's books online and in person. And we've ended up spending a lot of money and time on courses, and we've learned some things from the courses, but we haven't learned how to crack the code. I think everyone kind of tells us, well, it just kind of can't be done. You can't sell middle grade books, but we don't believe them, do we, Elena?
No, in fact, we're sick to death of hearing it because we are determined to do just as well as any adult book writers.
Within reason.
No, just as well, Marti. Just as well.
You're right. Just as well. We're going to do just as well as any adult book writers, adult children's book writers. I don't know if that's. I guess we all are adult children's book writers.
Well, we are in a growing genre. You know, like whenever I look at the stats, they always say there's been a massive increase in children's book sales. It's going to go boom, and I'm like, we're on the precipice of that.
I really actually think that. I am one of the only people that I know who lets my children read on the e-reader devices, and that can only grow from here. I really feel like thinking ahead about how to sell children's books, particularly ebooks, which I definitely have not mastered doing, is a part of being on the cutting edge. We're going to be the front runners if we can be the people who figure it out, because eventually it's going to catch up with us. At one point, no one read ebooks, and it was ridiculous. It was, no one's going to want to read on screens. Who's going to want to do that all the time? And there are obviously still a number of people who don't want to read on screens, but the number of people who are willing to read on screens and who spend all of their time reading on screens only increases every year. It doesn't decrease. And so I think that if we can be on the front end of that for children's books, then we're really setting ourselves up to be ahead of the game, and probably, as you say, being able to make as much money selling children's books as the people who are writing for adults.
Terrific. So what have you been working on recently?
So I am right now writing the second book in a series that I'm calling Book of Dragons. I know there's another series that has that. It's not actually a series of book from a long time ago that has a similar title, but we'll call it a working title. And I am really excited about it. It's cooler and cooler as we get more and more into the fantasy part. The first book in that series is really ask the question, like, what if you, a regular person, an actual regular person, not a person who is in the middle of a fantasy story, found a dragon? Like, what happens to your life? And in this next book, her world is becoming more and more what we would think of as a fantasy world, and it's fun. Like, it's fun to be in. So what are you working on?
How old is your protagonist before I tell you what I'm working on? How old?
Ooh, you didn't let me switch that. You were like, nope, Marty.
No, not yet. I'm too curious. I want to know more about your story.
Okay, so she's 10 years old, and her name is Jackie, and a bunch of brothers that she likes to be in charge of. And that part of it is fun too, because who doesn't want to be able to boss a whole troop of brothers around? So, yeah.
Nice. I like her already.
It makes for fun, fun hanging out. Now you.
It does. It does. Now me. I'm writing my very last meditation adventure for kids. I am so excited.
Congratulations.
I know, it's the last one, and it sounds terrible because we're meant to be so enthusiastic about our stories. But I'm like, I don't want to write another one. But it is quite a fun one because it's called Lolly and the Blue-Footed Boobies. And boobies sounds like, what the hell is that about? But actually, blue-footed boobies are a kind of bird, and they've got big blue webbed feet. And they're this really cool bird that I discovered a few years ago. And I thought, I'm going to teach kids about blue-footed boobies. And my kids laugh every time I say boobies. They go, boobies.
My son is quite an animal enthusiast, and so I already know all about blue-footed boobies because he he likes animal facts. So anything that's animal facts, he's gonna do that thing. But he has a couple of issues of National Geographic Kids have featured blue-footed boobies, and so that's
they?
Yeah. So
there
you will be in good company on that one, and I'm looking forward to getting to read it. And wait, let me say one more thing about that. I think that that's the creative brain, right? You need variation. So no matter how, the Lolly books are really cool. I love them, and they're gorgeous. They're absolutely gorgeous to look at. But you couldn't do that forever, right? Like, you need to switch up and maybe do some other things and then come back to Lolly.
Yeah, but I've been just trying to finish Lolly, because when I first started her, I used to dress up as her. So
did
not
you?
only
That is brilliant. We are totally interviewing you about that. Just that's happening.
Oh my God. And then I thought, I don't know if people, if little kids want to look at a 40-year-old Lolly who's pretending to be like 9.
Oh, they do. They do. I'm just going to make an executive decision for all little kids everywhere and say that they definitely do.
Well, I did an entire photo shoot, and I used to go out dressed as her and do school visits dressed as Lolly. And then thought I should grow up and become a real author, and stopped. But I still have her outfit, so if I ever want to bring her back to life, I can.
Okay. So you're going to have a lot to contribute to today's conversation with Emma, right? Because we're going to be talking with her about school visits and such, and other things, but also about school visits. So I'm going to be grilling the both of you then. I'm excited about that. So glad you threw in that little jewel. Let's do it.
Yeah. So perfect timing to introduce today's interview guest, and we're super excited. And I'm going to give a little intro because today we're joined by Emma Warner-Reed, who is the author of the award-winning Dottie series, which is a fantasy series about 9-year-old Dottie Parsons. I love that name, Dottie Parsons. I feel like I know her already. It's a perfect read for 8 to 12-year-olds. And so far in the series, there are 2 books, which are, let me read them so I don't get them wrong, Dottie and the Calendar House Key, Dottie and the Chimney Thief, and in 2017 we're all super excited for Dottie and the Dream Catchers. Did I say all that right, Emma? Welcome to the show. Yeah. Perfect. So tell us a bit about the series to begin with. What's your inspiration? How did you come up with it?
Well, I first came up with the idea when I was just after I had my second son, so 6 years ago. And I sat down for about 3 weeks after he was born and plotted out the characters in the series. But I was required at the time, contracted to write, because I write textbooks, legal textbooks. So I was contracted to write a text, put it away, and do what I was supposed to be doing rather than what I wanted to be doing. And I didn't revisit it again until my second daughter was born. So, which was February. Sorry, well, I started in February. She was born in November, but in February last year, I sat down and started to actually write. So, so it was a little while coming, but yeah, I had a couple of afternoons a week when it was just me and the little one. So I sat and wrote it then, and I published the first one in November, at the beginning of November. So yeah, so that's how it all came about, really. Series itself, it's
yeah, no, I'm sorry. I was cutting you off and letting you finish. I realized. I thought you were pausing. I was going to jump in, but then I was like, wait, no, she's not done. I don't want to cut her off. No, the thing that I was going to ask you is, I have read through the first book in the Dottie series, and I love it. I love the narrator's voice, and I think that it's really quite clever, and it has a very classic feel to it, like has a very classic story feel to it. And I was wondering why you decided to do that. There are so many stories that have, and a lot of understand that have that very classic narrator feel, but a lot of stories that are out now have a really modern sound to them. So I wondered where your inspiration for that bit of it came from.
Well, it happened by accident, really. That's my natural writing style is via an omniscient narrator. So, which I didn't know when I started writing, but now I know, having spoken to professional editors, that it's quite old-fashioned. I didn't really realise that it's apparently the fashion now to write in the first person quite often with children's books. But no, I like classic literature. A lot of my favorite authors are older. I like Dickens. I like Dumas, funnily enough. That's my favorite author in the world, is Alexandre Dumas. And I like a lot of the old classics tales, the Scarlet Pimpernel. I love Tarzan. Tarzan actually made me cry, physically sit and weep when I read Tarzan. So I really, really like the sort of the old classic books. And I guess my sort of writing style and the setting for the book is probably quite, it's set in a modern setting, because obviously the girls Skype each other all the time. So that was my little quirk to sort of bring it back into reality. But Dottie finds herself very much in a world which could easily have been 100 years ago, really, with the housekeeper, the cook, and the butler. Well, he's the personal assistant, the personal secretary of her great uncle, but he might as well be a butler type character, really. So yes, I mean the world that she finds herself in, and in fact, it will transpire as it goes along that there is a sort of a time shift issue, which hasn't been discovered yet, but the whole premise of the calendar house, I don't know if you know anything about calendar houses, but it was an architectural, they're real. Well, obviously they're not magical. Calendar houses are not real. Maybe I'd like my readers to think that, but obviously that's not the case. But but yes, the architectural quirk of calendar houses, it was very fashionable in England, certainly in a couple of 100 years ago, to have these calendar houses. So they might have 365 panes of glass in the windows, or they might have 7 chimneys, or 12 rooms, or whatever it might be, but they mirrored in as many facets as possible the house. So the biggest calendar house in the world, I think, is for sale at the moment, actually, if you have 8 million quid. lying around in under the mattress. But yeah, there's a massive calendar house down in South Yorkshire, which is for sale at the moment, which is absolutely vast. I think that has 365 rooms. But there are also much smaller calendar houses, and of course it's mimicking time. It's a play on time. To me, it represents time, because we're talking about, you know, days, weeks, months, years. So there's this sort of something going on in the background with the stories about the issue of time, and that's going to unfold as the series progresses. So yeah, she is sort of in without realizing it, she has been sort of transported into this slightly other world before she even begins, really. So that's a very convoluted explanation, but that's where it comes in. But yes, a lot of people have commented, and people who have reviewed the book have commented that it has a very much an old world feel about it. So yes, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, and Emma, if I can jump in, sorry, Marti, always stepping on your toes via distance.
Sorry.
Sorry, I echoed myself then. Hearing myself in echo was not a pleasant experience. So Emma, you recently launched, was it Dottie and the Chimney Thief? Is that the one that you just recently launched?
Yes.
So my question is sort of a two-part question. First of all, is how many do you plan to have in the series? And my second question is, tell us a bit about the launch and how you did it and what worked, what you might do differently next time around. Yeah, what was your experience launching that book?
It's been a really, really fun launch, actually, because I did something a bit different this time. Well, completely different this time, because the first time I just clicked live and the book went live with the first one, and I sat back and went, yay! And, you know, there were party poppers like from me, nobody else. And it was, you know, it's quite a weird, lonely experience, really, launching your first book when you don't know what you're doing. So yeah, I put it out there and just waited for copies to sell. And then once I persuaded all my friends to sell and I'd sold about 55 copies, I just sort of thought, right, what do I do now? I used to get really excited and go onto Amazon and type the name of the book in on Amazon and then see it and go, wow, I'm on Amazon. This is amazing. And it took me probably, I don't know, months and months until I suddenly realized that nobody else knew the name of my book. So, so nobody was seeing it on Amazon because it didn't actually exist as far as they were concerned. And it took me ages. So I've had a massively steep learning curve with that. But with the second book, I did a joint book launch with another middle grade author, Mark Remus, who you know, who's quite wonderful and a very talented author. So I did a joint book launch with him, and that was really wonderful because it made it not the lonely experience it was first time around, but also we did all the right things, I'd like to think, or attempted to do all the right things with the launch. So we had a bit of a readership by then. We had a mailing list to send out to, and we had a Facebook presence, and we had a Twitter presence. And so up the months before the launch, or the 3 weeks before the launch, we were able to send mailings out and advertisements out saying, you know, this is coming up, we're doing this amazing joint book launch. And of course, by doing it jointly as well, we were doubling the people that it was going out to, because subscribers as well as mine. And it was quite nice actually doing it with him, because I have quite a good Twitter presence. I've got nearly 8,500 Twitter followers at the moment. But I don't have much of a Facebook presence. I'm not really great with Facebook, so I don't have a huge following on Facebook. But Mark, he's the other way around. He doesn't have much of a Twitter following, but he's got a very good Facebook presence. So between us, and at the time when we started, we had a similar number of subscribers, which wasn't many when we decided to do it. I think we had about 60 subscribers each. But now we've got nearer 500, I think, each. So so that's really great too. But it was just nice. It was sort of an even mix for us, and we both write very similar middle grade fantasy. His are slightly pitched, slightly older than mine. you know, by a year or two, they're slightly darker than mine, although mine get a bit darker as they go along. Series tend to, don't they? But or can do. But yeah, so it was a really lovely experience actually to do that, and I would recommend doing that actually as a way of launching your book, to do a joint book launch with somebody, because you just have that sort of that moral support, really, I suppose, and you know, and it's just nice to plan it together. But obviously, it has a bigger reach too. So
I feel like that would answer a lot of my own personal anxieties about launches, because I feel super uncomfortable talking about my own books online or saying to people about buying my books online. It feels, I don't know, too self-involved or something. And
English of you. the English are really, really poor at jumping up and down and saying, "Look at me, I'm great." So, as a rule, so yes,
to know, so I can
we're
go to
terribly
England and have a home.
So
yeah, but I don't mind at all saying, like, particularly if I've read the book and it's a good book, I don't mind at all saying about someone else's book. So then that might actually be a pretty good solution. That's a really good idea. Right out of the gate, Emma. You're helping us out. Right out of the
So
gate.
how did you, like, what was the sort of steps of the launch? Like, did you put it for free or 99 cents for a week, or did you let your people? Yeah, what was the kind of, what were the steps?
Okay, so so we sent an email to all our subscribers about 3 weeks before launch and said, this is the launch, we're doing it together. Well, I'd sent something out a little bit before that, actually saying, wow, I'm doing this joint launch, it's amazing, because I'd actually delayed the launch by a few weeks because we decided to do this. So I'd said, I told everybody that I was launching on I don't know, the beginning of November, and I sent them an email saying, I'm going to launch a bit later because I'm doing this joint book launch. So that was the first thing. But then 3 weeks before launch, we started doing the joint emails. So we would email out, we would put it on Twitter and Facebook. So we'd said, you know, this is happening. This is the date. It's going to be a joint launch. It's going to be amazing. And Mark's did some really lovely graphics, you know, like ad graphics that we could put out with the 2 books on. So we had this little strap line going on. It was 2 books, 2 authors, 1 launch. So we did that, and then 2 weeks before we did the same again, we both, because it was my second series book coming out, and it was Mark's 3rd series book coming out. He's done things differently from me. You'll need to interview him at some point if you can get him on camera. But
we've booked him in for January.
Because he's a bit camera shy, but he shouldn't be. But yeah, so he wrote all. I won't tell you everything about him because he'll have nothing to say. But he wrote all of his 6 series books first. He's already written them all, and now he's launching them 6 month intervals. How he has that patience, I have no idea. I'm way too impatient for that. The pen down on the manuscript, I'm like, I want to get this out to people. I want to get it out now. So there's no way I could do that. He's just massively patient. But yeah, so he's on his 3rd series book. So I was on my 2nd. So what we did was just before launch, we put them into Kindle Unlimited, the books, and we did a free promo in the run up to launch on our 1st series book. Mm-hmm. So we started saying to all our social media, okay, everybody, we've if you haven't read it yet, get ready for the new launch. You know, you can read the 1st book. So we did this free promotion on the 1st book, and I used Free Booksy. I did a Free Booksy promotion. I don't know if you've heard of them, freebooksy.com. I did a promotion with them, which cost $40. And that got me the first day it was 650 odd downloads. It was about 1,000 downloads in total for that sort of 5-day promo that I did, which I know compared to a BookBub is minimal, but for me it was really great because it put it up to #1 in the charts, and it started getting it on the hot new releases list in Amazon. So for the category, which was fantasy fiction, children's fantasy fiction ebooks. Mm-hmm. So I was really pleased with that. So that worked really well. And we also did way. So we did a giveaway on Rafflecopter of a Kindle, all new Kindle, and our books. But we didn't. It got us a lot of subscribers. I've done several different things with getting subscribers in the run up to the launch. I did an Insta freebie, which was brilliant. That got like 112 subscribers in about 10 days. So I was really happy with that. But we did the Rafflecopter thing as well, which again ran for about 5 days. And we got 211 subscribers over those 5 days. So it was sort of twice as productive as the Insta freebie in terms of number of days and number of subscribers. But emails out, I got probably about 30 unsubscribes, which is not a huge amount, but I get the impression that a lot of people were really not interested in our books at all. They were only interested in getting a free Kindle. So I don't know how engaged those new subscribers are. So at the end of the book launch, having done the Insta freebie, having done the Rafflecopter, and I've been doing a massive promotion on Twitter as well. I suddenly can't see you. I hope you can still see me. The screen's
I can see you.
That's fine. I'm just talking to a blank screen, but oh, there you're back. Yeah, so 60 subscribers up to about 450 in the space of a couple of months.
Yeah.
Nice.
I would love to check in with you
that's
soon.
amazing. But that's,
I would
as I
love
say,
to check
through a
with
mixture
you
of
about how engaged those subscribers end up being. I've not had good luck with my giveaway subscribers. I keep them on like a side junk list. Like I have a free MailChimp account. I have a paid MailChimp account. And then I have a free MailChimp account that I've ended up moving the people from the giveaway onto so that I'm not paying for them, because I find the people who joined on through the giveaways that I've done have been very unengaged. And so I would love to see what happens with yours, just to compare notes, because obviously the couple of giveaways that I've done have not been enough data for me to decide wholesale that doesn't work as a method. So now I've got another person to jump in and pick the brain of to see, what are your numbers like? What are your open rates like? Yeah. So
I think Insta freebie is amazing. The problem that I've had I'm now having with what I've done for the launch, because I've only got 2 books out, 2 series books out. As to what I can now because I had to put them both into I've forgotten what it's called. KDP Select. I had to put them both into KDP Select, which means that I can't give away my book now. So now that it's in KDP Select, because I used it for the promo, I'm stuck in there till the 15th of February. So I can't do an Insta freebie to give away my book anymore until then. So as soon as it gets to the 15th of February, I'm going to go back and put it back on Insta freebie and see where I go, and I'm going to measure the two and see which has done better. So at the moment, I'm a bit, my hands are a bit tied, because I do have another little book, which we were talking about earlier, Dottie and the Very Lucky Day, which is just a 5,000 word little that I give out to subscribers as a thank you for subscribing. But it also, but it contains spoilers, as I would say. So if you haven't read the first book, it tells you the secret of the calendar house. So or it assumes that you already know the secret of the calendar house. So I can't really give that away as a first free book to people, because there's a big, well, I could take the sign out in the beginning saying contains spoilers, read the other book first, but you can't give something away and then say, I'm giving you this, but you have to go and read another book before you can actually read this, because obviously that's no good. And on my website and my giveaway that I do on Twitter, I had to swap it, so I'm saying, oh, you can have the first 5 free chapters, first 5 chapters of the first book free, instead of the whole of the first book free. And in fact, I'm technically cheating, I think, giving away 5 chapters. I think you're only supposed to give away 10% or something, but the end of chapter 5 is a really good cliffhanger. So I'm just, you know, I'm just doing that and hoping that I don't get my wrist slapped. But yeah, but I don't know. And I don't think, from what's happened so far, which is nothing, I don't think people will sign up for free chapters. I think they want a whole free book, or they're more likely to sign up for a whole free book than just some chapters. I don't know. I could be wrong. I'd like to be wrong. I don't know what your experience is.
I've heard mixed results. I've heard some people have given away chapters and have done still pretty good.
Mm.
So I think it just depends. But can I just clarify with you? So when you said you did the Insta freebie, did you do Insta freebie? Yeah. I sounded like I was a combination accent then. Insta freebie. Making fun of myself. Sorry, Emma. When you did the Insta freebie, did you actually give away Dottie and the Chimney Thief before you launched it?
No.
So no, you gave away Dottie and the Calendar House Key.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I wanted to clarify that. Yeah, because I've heard some people who actually put their book on Insta freebie before it launches and then launch it. Yes, I've heard that as a strategy, and that's what I wondered if you had done that.
Oh, okay. No, I released the first book, the Dottie and the Calendar House Key, on Insta freebie, and I'm finding now that even though I've released the second book, what it's done is it's created a resurgence, a boost in sales of my first book. And actually it's still the first book now and the first book that's selling. I'm not getting very many sales of the second book because people are seeing it, I think, now. I think I've got more visibility, but I think people are seeing it and saying, well, this is the second series book, so I'm going to go back and read the first one. So I think that for me, my experience to date, which is short, but my experience has been that, bringing out the second book is causing people to go and read the first book. And then I'm hoping it will catch up. I know Mark has had a similar experience. He's sort of had the most sales with his first book and then less with the second and then less again with the third. And it's as I say, it's causing people to go back and say, oh, this series looks interesting, but I need to start from book 1, so that the most people, you'll get a few people that will buy all 2 or 3 or whatever it is, because they're willing to take a punt. But the majority of people, I think, are quite cautious. So they'll go off and buy the first book and then see if they like it before they. That's been my experience. But the launch itself, getting back to the launch, so we just encourage people. Oh, the other thing that I did was I got advanced readers. I got a team Dottie, an advanced readers team, which was very, very small compared to a lot of other authors. I mean, crikeys, I'd read something the other day. You know, Mark Dawson. He's one of these self-publishing guru types, but he'd commented that he had 700 people on his advanced team, which I was just stunned at that it was that many. But I don't know, no offense to Mark, but I don't know how good a rate of conversion that team has, because basically you're asking them to read your book before the launch and then review it at launch, aren't you? So to get your reviews up. Well, I had only 18 people on my launch team, which was a really small number of people. But 14 of those people, of the 18, have all put reviews on. Good. So that's a massive, that's really good for me. Like almost everybody did it, basically. In fact, it's only really actually some of my closest friends that haven't bothered, because they just said they'd do it just to be nice, I think. But so it's been really good in terms of engagement, for want of a better word. But with he said he had these 700 people on his advanced reader team, but he doesn't have 700 reviews, so he doesn't even have 350 reviews on his Amazon books. So so I'm thinking that actually a smaller number of advanced readers no, we're definitely going to do it for you, rather than just having a massive advanced reader team. I don't know. I think I would aim to maybe have 200 and hope I get 100 reviews out of it. Maybe that would be my aim as I get bigger and better, more well known. But different people do. I don't know how many people aim to have on their advanced reader teams. I don't know if there is a magic number. I don't know how many you guys have on yours, but definitely I think that's a really good idea to have the advanced readers and to get some reviews up there, because I definitely think it helps with sales. But it's quite tough. It's quite tough getting reviews. I have found, because obviously you're asking people to make quite a lot of effort. You're asking them to, especially with middle grade, like little ones books that you can literally flick through in 5 minutes, you know. But with a middle grade book, you know, you're talking 4 hours worth of reading before you start, really. So it's quite a big ask, I suppose, saying to somebody, you know, unless they're genuinely already hooked on your titles and wanting to, you know, read them, to ask somebody to reading your book and then posting a review, maybe that's a big ask. So I don't know, but yeah, so we did have an advanced reader team. That was something else that we did on our launch.
And do you find that what you've been doing with this launch has made a really big difference? I mean, I guess it probably would have from your first book where you were like, yay, I put a book up, to now where you've gotten like quite a lot of strategy in place for the second book. But what are the differences that you've seen in terms of building audience and also in book sales?
Well, in terms of building audience, I think definitely it's made a difference, because as I say, I did the free promo in the run up to launch on my first book, and then on the launch day for 4 days I did another free promo on my new book. So I got another 1,000, so I've had like 1,000 downloads of that for the free period. So what that achieved was that it got both books got to #1 in their category, which is children's action and adventure fantasy. Yeah, that I think. So it got them into the #1 spot on those, and also it got them to, they started appearing in the hot new releases in their category as well. Right. So, and at one point, they're not now, but at one point they were both showing up on like hot new releases on the first page of children's books. So if you went into children's ebooks, hot new releases, they would appear on the first page, which is the first 20, I think. And once they started hanging around in there, funnily enough, it wasn't getting me e-sales. It wasn't selling me ebooks. Nothing sells me ebooks. But it was, I think, attributed to selling the paperbacks, because I'm now paperbacks, and I think that people are looking at these lists. That's the only thing I can attribute it to. But I think people are looking at these lists. I think it was interesting what you were saying earlier, Marti, about using the Kindle, for the children using the Kindle, because the majority of friends I've spoken to, in fact, I don't know anybody that their children use an e-reader, actually. Everybody wants a physical book, especially if they're reading to their children at night. They want to have a physical book to hold, and so I've struggled with that. There were quite a few people now starting to get the audiobook version of things, so they can play them in the car or play them to their children at night if they can't be bothered to read them out loud. So that's something that I'm actually quite interested in exploring, and in fact I will book version if ever I can find the time. But yeah, it certainly, as I say, so to answer your question, I'm rambling. To answer your question, has made a big difference using this strategy. It hasn't, you know, it hasn't turned me into J.K. Rowling overnight, unfortunately. But I think it's definitely, I think I'm definitely going in the right direction. But it's for somebody like me who's incredibly impatient by nature, it's a very slow burn. People keep telling me it's a marathon, not a sprint, but you know, I was a sprinter at school, not a marathon runner. So, and I continue to be the same in mind now as an adult. So yeah, I find the process very frustrating, having to wait, having to do everything slowly and build it up is quite a frustration for me. But you just have to keep going, don't you? You have to keep doing what you're doing and hope that, you know, it will build up. I'm hoping. My husband keeps telling me it's going to be the snowball effect. It's going to be the snowball effect. You just keep doing all these little things, and then all of a sudden it'll just go whoosh, which he reckons will happen at book 3 or 4. This is his prediction. So I'm just hoping that he's right, and that, you know, all these little things will come together in the end. But you just have to keep trying to get the word out there, don't you? That's the thing. It is like standing at the bottom of a well shouting most of the time, though.
So what are you doing?
Sorry, Marti, I didn't hear what you said.
I said, what are you doing that really is getting the word out?
Well, at the moment now, post launch, not. I think. I'm quite exhausted post-launch. I think that I know a lot of authors do like podcast tours or guest blog tours or things like that after the launch, which I think is quite a good idea. But yeah, I haven't really cracked that yet. I haven't cracked the whole media PR thing yet, so I need to look at.
What about your school visits?
Yeah,
school visits.
That's what I was going to say. Tell us about your school visit. Tell us about the school visit.
Yeah, well, school visit. I love doing school visits. School visits are great, and yes, that gets your name out there. Of course, it does. So
how did you get it? How did you contact the school? Or did you pick a school and contact it, or tell us the process, like literally step by step? If I was to do it tomorrow, what should I do?
Okay, well, I'll tell you what I did wrong first. When I launched my first book, the prologue is set on Bonfire Night, which, for those not in the UK, is the 5th of November. It's the Gunpowder Plot. We celebrate it every year, and there are lots of fireworks. And it's when this guy called Guy Fawkes had a plot to overthrow the government, and he was caught and hung, drawn, and quartered. And we have a massive fireworks celebration every year to celebrate. It's supposed to represent the blowing up of the Houses of Parliament. It all sounds really strange when you explain it like that. Actually.
It does. It does. It's like, whoa.
And children get very excited about fireworks night. Okay. So the prologue is set on fireworks night, bonfire night. Dottie has persuaded her parents to hold a firework party in their back garden of their home in Cardiff, and she's very excited about it, and it all goes horribly wrong. This is how it starts. So I came up with this, what I thought was a brilliant idea, and I produced workshop materials to send out to schools, free workshop materials. So I produced this worksheet, so to read the prologue and to ask questions about, what was the neighbour Mr. Davis doing that he shouldn't have been doing, if this is like bad for fireworks procedure, and getting them to do a poster. And then I did a competition at the end, which was to rewrite the ending of the prologue to give it a different ending. So it was a kind of like a 500 words exercise for children to rewrite the ending of the prologue and to send it in, and the winners would get signed copies of my book. So I thought this was brilliant, and I was really excited about it. And I did a massive mail shot and sent it out to 38,000 primary schools, thinking that I would get this huge response. And I didn't. I didn't. I think it went in everybody's trash, because I found out since then, having spoken to a lot of teachers, that they get loads of stuff all the time. They get spammed to death on their email, and basically any email that comes in that isn't from the government telling them about a new policy that they're supposed to adhere to, they will just stick it in the bin. out of the 38,000 schools that I sent to, I got about 6 responses. I got about 6 schools who entered the competition. But nevertheless,
wait a second, hold on. Let me ask you about the emails really quick. Out 38,000 emails, which is quite an impressive number of emails to send at one time. Like, did you send it from your personal email account? Like, how did you even send 38,000 emails?
My friend did it for me on a mail shot via, I don't even know.
Yeah.
She did.
Okay.
I downloaded the list of school emails from the internet, and it took hours and hours and hours. But we did this mail shot off a spreadsheet. I don't really know how it works. But she's good at that. She did it for me.
From your Gmail account, and then get banned. Okay.
No, it was. I don't know. I don't know how. I don't know what it was. 1+1 or something. But yeah. Anyway, it didn't have a great response, but the thing that I have found about schools and school visits, the best people to ask about what to do and what works and how they want to be approached is the teachers themselves. Actually, other authors who go into schools are not always the best people to ask about what, except for me, of course, not necessarily the best people to ask about what to do, because it's the teachers that tell you what makes them happy, what doesn't make them happy, what they ignore, what they don't ignore, and what they want to see. So my thing is to build up a good relationship with 2, 3, 4, half a dozen maybe, certainly a very small teachers that you get on really well with, that you can chat to about it and that you can be candid with, and you can say, you know, what would you like? What do you want to see? What works for you? I've even had teachers saying, oh, you send me your workshop materials and I'll look them over and I'll tell you what I think and how you can improve that. You know, they're really, if you find a few people that are willing to work with you and that are happy to work with you, it's amazing how responsive those people are if they're genuinely interested in getting literature into schools. So I have a little group now of the people. So what I did was I ran this competition and I got my envelopes in the post for on the competition date with my entries in, and I read them and I chose the winners, and then I wrote to the schools saying, little Johnny's won. Would you like me to come into the school and present the book to them? And they wrote back and said, yes, we'd love you to do that. So so that was my in. That was my initial in. That's how I did it. So I went into those schools. I made arrangements to go and see them. Didn't charge for my visit. I went in to see them, and I sat and I arranged with the teacher, and I sat down with the classes, and I sat and read them. They'd already read the prologue, obviously, because they'd entered this competition. So I sat down and read chapter 1 to them. And then I just did a Q&A, a really simple Q&A. Children are brilliant. They had loads of questions, and they were really engaged and lovely. And then, of course, because I was there, they all wanted to buy a copy of my book and have it signed. So then I'd sold a book to every child in the class, basically, that I read to. There was a little bit of a difference between private schools and the county primary schools, because the private schools, obviously, they're more moneyed. So they would appear either with money, or they would be saying to the teacher, you know, Miss Titchmarsh, would you please put this on the school bill for me? So yeah, that was a lot more productive for me. But the going to county primary schools, I found that obviously they have a lot less money. So I'd have a little line of children with a piece of paper and saying, please, could you sign my piece of paper? I can't afford to buy a book, which is really sad. So what I tended to do is give a couple of copies of the books to for their school libraries, and did it that way.
That's nice.
Because I think it's just the right thing to do and the nice thing to do. So, but you know, they'll be excited and they'll remember the school visit, and hopefully they'll read the book in the library, and then they will go out and tell their friends, and you know, it's all good, isn't it? So
did you send, sorry Emma, did you send them like a sheet for them to take home and collect money from their parents before you went to the school? Is that how you did it?
No, just when I arranged the visit, I just emailed the teacher beforehand who I was liaising with and said, I'm going to be bringing my books with me. This is the price, and make sure that the children have brought their pocket money or whatever, the money with them to buy the book.
Okay.
As I say, with the private schools, they tend to just put them on the school account. I mean, they might even dictate, it depends on the school. I've been into one school where they have bought a book for every child and it has gone on the school account, and they've basically written to the parents and said, if you don't want this book, let us know. So it's been like a reverse thing, an opt out rather than an opt in. But private schools tend to be more, they've got more money to, they know that they can do that. So, and they're getting that added value because they're not paying me to come in. So they feel, the alternative is, of course, you see, because when I first did it, I was only going in and reading a chapter and doing a Q&A. I wasn't doing a workshop. I didn't really feel it was appropriate for me to be charging. I did charge for petrol for a couple of the schools because they were miles away, like 4 hours drive or whatever away. And so I did charge for petrol for 2 of the schools that I went to, and they were happy to pay that. But you could do it a different way. You could, especially if you're doing a workshop, you could include in the workshop giving a book to each child, but then obviously you factor that into the price. But I haven't done that. That's not what I did. In terms of the mail shot and doing that wrong, a couple of teachers have commented and spoken, because I've spoken to them, as I say, at length about these things, and a couple of them have said to me, actually, you're much better off sending a letter or a flyer, because if we have an email, we'll just click delete. Whereas if we have a piece of paper, it will sit on our desk, and it might sit in a pile of papers on our desk, but it will sit on our desk until we physically do something with it. So I've been advised, and therefore passing that on to you guys, I would advise that it's better perhaps to target less schools, but to physically send something out. I've actually phoned the school before sending something as well on a few occasions.
That's really, I think the most brilliant hack that I've heard so far about school visits was my children's school, which is quite large for our city. I live in New Orleans. I'm from New Orleans, and it has a big name, but it's actually a pretty small city. So the school has about 800 students in it, which is a lot. It's a huge school for here. And the author that was coming to visit, I won't actually say the author's name, but was obviously doing a New York Times run. They were trying to get their book on the New York Times bestseller list, and it landed on the New York Times bestseller list. But I noticed now with my new author eyes that the form that they sent home saying, we're going to have this author, this famous New York author, come to school on this day. And when you get your copy for your child to sign, instead of us sending money to school where the exchange would happen there, we were instructed to call a local bookshop that I happen to know has the Nielsen, so that those books were counting toward the New York Times run. So for half of the 800 parents who called and got, so then that's 400 sales at a bookstore in New Orleans. That's from the one school, and then you're here, so then you're doing that at multiple schools. I was like, this is genius. Now I just need to get a good enough name that anybody cares that I'm coming to their school, and they'll actually call the bookshop to order the book and have them delivered to the school on the day. I was like, that's
right. That's what I wondered. So did they get the books delivered to the school on the day?
Yeah, the books were delivered to the school. So the bookshop was just taking orders over the phone and ringing them over the phone. And they sent them as a collective and the author signed them live. They weren't, he had a long, fancy, happy line of kids, which I'm sure feels great as he was signing the books there. Yeah.
The downside of that, though, would be that obviously that author would have been traditionally published, would he have been? And so therefore, he would just make the profit that he would normally make anyway But, you know, if we sell our books through a bookstore, you know, we might make $1 or $2, but if we take them in as authors, you know, we could make like $10, $15, depending how we've printed them and how we're charging, yeah? But we wouldn't get on the New York Times bestseller list.
Right. I was going to say that depends on what your goal is, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you want them to say that you're a New York Times bestselling author, then you'll take the hit.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah, no, great one, good one.
Yeah, very good idea. So that's what the initial school visits that I did, I was just doing a reading, as I say, of the first chapter of the book, and then doing a Q&A, which has worked really, really well. I was asked to go into a school on World Book Day and do workshops. I felt very uncomfortable doing it because I'm not a primary school teacher, and although I teach my children at home and I'm a university lecturer by trade, so I'm used to teaching adults, I'm not used to teaching children. And because my children are not of that age yet, I'm not confident that I know what is going to engage a 10-year-old for the length of time. So I'd written the materials, but actually I'd done 3 different sets of materials. One of them I found on the ground didn't work anywhere near as well as I thought or I wanted to, so I abandoned it and did one of the other workshop sessions instead for those children. But I found I think you have to be very confident in what you or comfortable in what you're doing, because I think if you're uncomfortable and if the children don't have a good experience, then it doesn't matter how great your book is, it's going to impact on that. And I spent a lot of time thinking about what I was wanting to achieve with these school visits as well, because, you know, I want the Dottie series to become known. I want people to say, this is the book, you know, these are the books. The books are great. I don't want Emma Warner Reed to become well known as somebody who does great school workshops. Like, this is a great teacher. Yeah, I might be a great teacher. I might not be a great teacher, but you know, I don't want to become well known as a teacher, as somebody that presents workshops. I want to become well known for my writing and for my imagination and for the books that I am producing. So for me, I had to think long and hard about what I was wanting to achieve with that, and I was a little put off doing workshops for a while, conscious of not wanting to, as I say, become the entertainer. I wanted to entertain with the reading of my book. I didn't want to be the entertainer, and that I was coming in and you know, so that was just a very personal thing for me, but I didn't feel that I wanted to do that until I had a really funny experience with the school visit that I did most recently after launching the second book, because I haven't told the people who might be listening to the podcast, but we spoke earlier and I'd said that I don't do a lot of school visits. I don't do anywhere near as many as I would like to do because I homeschool my children. So if I go in to do a school visit, my husband takes the day off work, he looks after the children, I go into the visit. I can't be doing that obviously every day or even every week. So probably once a month, you know, I did 2 in 2 weeks when I launched, just because the new book, but I usually I'm not able to really do very many, so nowhere near certainly as many as I would like. But I'd spoken to a couple of the schools that I was in contact with from before and said, look, my new book's coming out, do you want me to come in and see the children again? And they'd said, yes, we'd love to see you. But also somebody on my team, on Team Dottie, on my advanced reader team, had said, oh, you know, we'd really love you to come on the board of governors for my school, and the children I'd really love you to come in and see the children. Would you be willing to do it? And I said, yes, of course I would. So that's been really nice. A couple of people have actually approached me that way. But I went into this one school after immediately after the book launch of the second book. And I'd spoken to her about it before, the head teacher, and I'd said, you know, I'm going to bring my books in and I'm going to, you know, here's the prologue to read, and you know, I'm going to do a reading. And anyway, I arrived, there was a massive influx. They'd all bought the books online beforehand, which is interesting. I sold almost no books. I think I sold about six books at the actual thing, which was completely. It's been my experience before, but they were obviously all instructed to go and buy the book off Amazon beforehand. But that was quite nice. In similar to what you were saying, Marti, about this other author, it was quite nice because obviously it helped with my Amazon sales, although less profitable because I make more money on selling a physical book. But yeah, so that was different. But also I arrived and the teacher basically completely ambushed me because I had mentioned to her this flash fiction challenge that I've started up. And she said, and I said, look, you know, I've been speaking to other teachers at other schools, and we've come up with this great idea that we could do this flash fiction challenge because a lot of schools have, you know, keen writers and budding writers, or they might have writers clubs, and they're really, really keen to start writing themselves. And what can we do to encourage them and to help? So I'd started this thing the week before called the Dottie's Flash Fiction Challenge. So every month I'm putting up a quote from a book, either mine or another children's author. It's got to then, it's a prompt for them to then write a short story. I think I've limited it at 300 words. And it's got to include somewhere in the story the quote from the book. So that I'm doing the first one this month. So it's I think I might be the victim of my own success. It suddenly occurred to me I'm having quite a few schools showing interest in this now, and I don't know how I'm going to read them all when they come in. So I'm gonna have to think a bit about that. But but anyway, in theory, it's a great idea, as many of my great ideas are, but I don't always think them through as much as I probably should before I launch them. So I mentioned to this teacher, I said, I'm doing this flash fiction challenge. I would really like to be able to tell the children about it. And maybe I brought this poster in, you know, that you can maybe stick on your notice board at school, and some of the children might like to do it. She said, oh, this is brilliant. Why don't we do a workshop based around, and you can get the children writing some flash fiction right now. And I just kind of said, okay. So she led me into the, I mean, it's lucky that I have done some teaching, really, because I would have been, so I walked into this full school hall, assembly hall of children. And she said, oh, this is Emma Warner-Reed. She's going to do this flash fiction workshop with you. It's going to be really great. What do you need, Mrs. Warner-Reed? Shall I go and get some paper and pens? And I said, yeah, that's fantastic. So I was stood at the front of the class thinking, oh, heck, what am I going to do? And I basically just did this hour-and-a-half session completely on the hoof. But it was really good. It was absolutely brilliant. I mean, she did jump in and rescue me a couple of times, which was great, just by making suggestions or saying a couple of things. Like she suggested I change colour pens at one point so that the children had some focus for what they were doing. Just a couple of things, which was very helpful. But yeah, so I just stood at the front of the class and said, well, you know, okay, everybody. We talked about prologues and what prologues were, and how prologues aren't very fashionable in children's books, but I always write a prologue in my children's books because I like to set the scene. And we talked about scene setting, and I'd said that the prologues are in themselves a little piece of flash fiction, really, because they're a little story in itself that sets the scene for the big story. So we started talking about this, and then we were talking about what flash fiction was and short stories, and how it's more difficult to write a short story than a long one because, you know, and then I just got them. We got these big pieces of paper out, these big sort of A2 pieces of paper out on the floor. They split into groups, and I got them doing mind maps. So I wrote on the board at the front of the class the quote from the flash fiction challenge, which was just a sentence, and it was. I can't head now. I should do. It's current. It's this for this month, but it was something along the lines of he stepped out onto the ice and held his hand out and said, come on, it's safe, I promise. Or words to that effect. And it's actually a scene in my second book, which is why I should know what it says. But it was Pip asking, they were out on the frozen lake, and it's Pip asking Dottie to come and join him on the ice. They went ice skating. But so I'd started off with this thing, and I said, look, we need to have, we know that there's a boy and a girl in this story, just from this little quote. We know that there's a setting, a scene, it's ice, but we don't know where that ice is. So we talked about where it might be and what the relationship between the characters might be. And they just started doing this mind map. I know a lot of authors use mind mapping for writing. I don't, but I'd recently seen a podcast somewhere from another author talking about mind mapping, and that's how he wrote. And I thought, right, this is what I'm going to have to do. So they did this amazing mind maps and mapped out in groups their story and where it was going to be, and what the problem was going to be, and how it was going to end, and who the characters were, and the scene. I mean, the scene setting, it was quite amazing, because just from saying he stepped out onto the frozen water or onto the ice, I can't remember which it says, they came up with all sorts of things. It was like a skating rink in a shopping plaza. They had frozen lakes. They had Arctic scenes. They had, children are just, they've got the best imaginations, haven't they? They're just amazing.
What age level? What age level were they in? What age level?
This was years 3 up to year 6. So it was, it might be different where you are.
Can you translate that for me for a US audience?
Sorry? That's like 8 to 11, 8 to 11-year-olds.
8 to 11. Yeah, 8 to 11.
So
would you charge for that in future, do you think? If you did more of those, would you charge for them?
Well, I think I could. I think it was quite good. So yeah, I think I probably could.
Yeah.
But I think what I'm going to do moving forwards, actually, and again, it's a bit of a personal frustration for me, because I'd like to just go out to 100 schools and do this, but I physically can't at the moment. So choose and approach schools individually and ask them. But I think that it would be a nice way to introduce the flash fiction challenge to schools.
Yeah,
actually,
yeah, it's great.
So I would think what I will do is that now I will approach schools individually and say, look, I've got this flash fiction challenge going on. I'd really love your school to be involved. Let me come and talk to the children about it, and we can talk about, because what happened after the class, it was really interesting. After the session, the little ones went away and they'd had a lot of fun and it was great. But the older, the 2 years 5 and 6, the teachers said, right, well, we've actually got English next. So we're going to go away and we're actually going to finish our stories. And then we can enter them to the challenge. So it worked really, really nicely. And I think it's sort of, author has been there and has discussed with them this quote and given them pointers, and they've used their own imaginations to sort of start crafting the outline of their story. I think that that's a really nice way to get them involved and enthused in doing it. So for me, probably I wouldn't charge at this point for that. But if you are an author wanting to go into schools and make a living out of it, although that's not what I can do currently, I do think that I know authors that do it, and I do think that there's a lot of market there. Crikey, there's an author in the UK whose name I've currently forgotten. I'm having a blank, but he does like 250 school visits a year. He literally just goes out and does.
I know the one you made
every day.
I've forgotten his name as well, but I know the one.
You can charge sort of, I don't know, up to £250, I think, for a school visit, or maybe more for some authors, for maybe more well-known authors, I don't know. But you've got to, for me, you've got to be confident that you're going to be giving them some value.
Yes.
I know that the teachers that I've spoken to about it have said that there are kind of 2 camps of teachers. Some of them just basically want the children to be babysat so they can go off and do some prep or have a coffee in the staff room, and just, they will basically pay for the children to be babysat for a couple of hours, and they can tick a box saying, yes, we've done literacy, and then they're really happy. So they basically don't care what you do as long as you are, they'll just stick all the children in the school hall and maybe 1 or 2 teachers to just make sure that there isn't a riot, and then they'll just leave you to it, and that's so you can do anything, and that's fine. It's not the sort of school that I think I would want to be engaging with. But then the other camp, the other sort of half of teachers or whatever, and they really want to see that you have been teaching them something that will already doing genuinely, that you are bringing something educational, not just here I am, here's an author and let's have some fun. They really want to see that you are educating the children. So for that, I think you have to be quite confident. The fiction, I would be confident actually now, having done it, having been strong on the hop. I would be really happy doing that as a session, and maybe moving forwards. It's a confidence thing, I suppose, but I perhaps would be confident enough in time to charge for that, because I think it is a valuable thing to the children. So I mean, for me, yeah, sorry.
Sorry, Emma, we've just run out of time. So we've loved having you on, and you've just taught us so much. We want to finish up with our question that we ask everybody, though normally Marti asks it. Should I ask it this time, Marti?
You should ask it. You should totally ask it.
Should I ask it? I don't remember it. All right, I'll try. So Emma, what was? Tell me if I did it right, Marti. You fix me if I do it wrong.
I'm holding my rubric over here. I'm going to check
hold it good.
Yeah.
Emma, tell us the last book that you read to your children, last fiction book, that wasn't one that you've written. Did I say that right?
Perfect. You got it.
Yeah. We've actually just read The Witches, Roald Dahl's The Witches, because we went we went to see a production of it at the theatre for the Christmas that was their Christmas treat. So yeah, in advance of going to see the play. So that's the most recent thing that I have.
An amazing pick, and it's kind of telling because your narrator voice is not unlike the narrator voice in Roald Dahl, although less dark. Slightly less dark, so then that's
oh, well, that's a compliment indeed. Thank you, Marti.
Yeah, it's very good. So thank you so much for hanging out with us. It has been a lot of fun, and I hope that we're able to have you on again, because there's a lot more to be said. I think even just in the topics that we were talking about, I feel like we're only being conscious of time and cutting our conversation off here. So if you
it's been an absolute pleasure, and I'd be delighted to come again and speak with you.
So where can people find you online, Emma? Where can people find you online?
You said that.
My website is www.thedottyseries.com.
Okay, and we will be sure to put that in the episode show notes. Are there other places that you want people to check you out? Your 9,000, we're gonna have to have a separate conversation about that. Your 9,000 Twitter followers.
But yeah, I do Twitter. I like Twitter. I do Twitter a lot. So yes, I use Twitter, and my Twitter handle is @EmmaWarnerReed, all one word, just without any hyphens or anything. So Emma Warner Reed.
All right.
RWD. So yeah, so please, please join me on Twitter. Yeah, I do a lot of Twittering. And I also have a Facebook page, which is facebook.com/the-dotty-series. Yes, I'm available in many places.
That's wonderful. We will put all of those things.
And I will look forward to hearing the other podcasts as well, because it sounds like you've got some really interesting content coming up. So
that's great. And Elena and I have had to comment before on the show that because we are on different sides of the world and we are interviewing people who are in different places. So Elena is in Australia, I am in Louisiana in the United States, and you are in England. We are sometimes experiencing a tiny, tiny delay in our broadcast that's having us cut each other off slightly. But I feel like the sentiment and that we know that we are trying to be able to hear the things that the other person is saying and not trying to be rude, even though it might be coming across that way as we keep cutting each other off in the conversation. Just a tiny bit of a delay. So thank you so much for joining us today. And do we have other signing off to do before we do the big sign off, Elena?
No, I think we're done. Just let's tell people where to find the podcast and say goodbye for the day, night, wherever you are in the world.
So thank you for joining us on the Indie KidLit podcast. For the episode show notes, if you've already forgotten Emma's Twitter handle, if you want to get in touch with Elena or me, then you should visit us at www.indiekidlitpodcast.com, and you can get pretty much everything that you need there except bananas. So we will see you next time, and I'll see you next time, Elena.
And may I say in closing, thank you to everybody for listening to us. We would love it. We would be ever, forever, eternally grateful if you could leave us a review on iTunes or Stitcher, because that helps our ratings and helps new authors to find us. And I know it's a bit of bit of trouble to get into iTunes in particular to do it, but if you go to the trouble, it would just be fantastic. I thought I would remind you. Thanks, Marti.
That's great.
Thank you, Emma.
We should ask that every single time, because I find as a podcast listener that helps to remind me. And also we should definitely say thank you every time, because I, as a podcast listener, love when people tell me thank you. So you are brilliant for remembering to do that.
Just like Nike says, just do it. Just do it now.
All right, that's great.